right, we are back here on the Just End the Suffering podcast. We are talking about the latest coronavirus-related troubles in the NFL. Joining me today, our legal correspondent and a guy who's sort of become our go-to guy on all these COVID-related sports issues. Phil Fraietta is here. Phil, how are you?
Good, Mike. How you doing?
Pretty good. I'm sure you're probably feeling better about football today than I am after that game.
I don't know. I'm glad to see some wins, but it's a little bit of a false hope. 4-7 is competitive simply because of the division they're in. If they were in any other division in football, you really wouldn't care about the result today. So I guess it's a yes. I'm happy that I'm going to be watching some competitive football, but I just hope that the Giants and their fans don't take too much away from this. They're improving. I'll give them that, but they're lucky that they're playing in a weak division and they're playing a pretty soft schedule as of late too.
Yeah, well, I don't think they're going to win next week in Seattle, but I still think they got a great shot to win this division because the Eagles are just completely falling apart, and the Cowboys are dead now too, I think. And I think it's certain they have a head-to-head on Washington. That's huge.
Yeah, look, you want to prove to me that you're for real? Go win in Seattle. Go win some of these tough games that they have to play. They still got Baltimore on the schedule. Beat those teams, and then I'll believe it. But I don't see that happening, especially, now that it looks like the quarterback's going to be out for a couple of weeks at least.
Yeah, right now it's the Colt McCoy show of the Giants, but that's not what we're here to talk about today. We're here to talk about the latest NFL coronavirus-related problems. Not affected the Giants, but they're affecting plenty of other teams. And I think this week we've seen sort of the league has sort of hit a brand new crisis point with the COVID.
Yeah, this is bad now. Now you've reached a point that you and I had talked about back when we did this over the summer. What do you do if you reach this point? That's exactly what happened. Now today you had a uncompetitive professional football game played. The Denver Broncos were in no position to play professional football. They didn't have a single quarterback on the roster who was eligible to play based on the COVID, and the results showed that they played a wide receiver at quarterback. I understand that he had some experience playing quarterback in college, but you can see the difference between the pro game and the college game. That wasn't a football game today.
Yeah, it's not. And we got a bunch of different angles we got to look at here. Let's start out with the ongoing saga here at the Baltimore Ravens, who right now, as of recording, have 20 players on the COVID IR, and a lot of them tested positive. Sounds like it's due to one strength and conditioning coach who decided he didn't need to wear his mask or wear the contact tracing software around his wrist. He basically infects a bunch of people. This game's been pushed back twice now. It started originally on Thursday night after Thanksgiving, went back to Sunday at 1:15, now back to Tuesday at 8. It sounds like the NFL is going to basically just go all full throttle ahead for the Ravens Steelers to play on Tuesday to avoid having to add the Week 18 to the schedule. So what's your take on what's been going on there? And don't forget the Steelers in this situation also have at least 5 players testing positive for COVID as of this point.
Well, the NFL showed you today, really, what this is all about. And it's no surprise. This is all about the money. It's about getting the NFL wants to complete the regular season on time, as you said. And part of that is for fantasy football purposes. They want to have the fantasy playoffs take place when they're supposed to take place. You get a lot of eyes on the TVs that way, get a lot of action on the daily fantasy games. And then they want to go into the playoffs. They want the playoff revenue. And they've decided that they are going to do whatever it takes, health be damned, in order to finish the season. And that's what's going on. That's why they played a game today where the Denver Broncos didn't have a quarterback on the roster. It's not for competitive balance. It's for money. And they're going to do the same thing, I think, with this Ravens-Steelers game. If they can play it, if it's feasible, and by feasible I really mean possible, they're going to play. Obviously, 20 guys on the team with COVID, I don't really understand what we're playing here, but they're going to play the game, and they're going to tell the Ravens, deal with it, because we need to finish the season, because we need that playoff money.
Yeah, it's also the league's inconsistent, too, because earlier this month we saw the 49ers had basically 6 or 7 guys play on the short week, and the NFL said, too bad, play on, whereas the Ravens were like, okay, we're going to push it back twice and just wait it out. Do you feel like this is because they had a bigger outbreak, or if you're the 49ers, do you feel like, hey, we got screwed here?
I think you feel a little screwed if you're the 49ers, but I also think this is the NFL recognizing the importance of the game. I hate to say that, but that's what's going on. I think they know that this Ravens-Steelers game is very important in the standing. If the Ravens have any chance of coming back and winning that division, they got to win this game. And they want to give them every chance they can to go out there with as healthy of a squad as possible and keep it competitive. So I think that's exactly what's going on.
Yeah, it's also something that you looking at some of the guys that Ravens are not going to have in this game. They're down a couple of running backs. Lamar Jackson has COVID. Matt Judon, their edge rusher, has COVID. Mark Andrews were on the list today. Willie Snead went there today. Like, even if they're able to scrounge together enough guys to go out there and play football, like, the team's not going to be competitive.
But probably not. But I think the NFL was hoping that maybe we push the game a little bit, we get lucky. We get some negative tests back, and we can get these guys in there. But yeah, this isn't going to be a competitive football game if they play it. But I think they'll play it because I don't think the NFL cares anymore. They just want to get the season over with, get to the playoffs, and get the TV money. It's a real shame because this is a professional sport. I'm going to rant a little bit if you don't mind, but this is a professional sport. You're supposed to be seeing the best of the best out there. You're supposed to be seeing elite level competition, and you're not seeing that. And the thing about the NFL that distinguishes it from college football or high school football is once you go and remove star players like a Lamar Jackson or even backup quarterbacks, forget star players. Once you remove NFL capable quarterbacks, the game doesn't work. It becomes a joke of a game. It's not a professional sport anymore. That's what you saw today with Denver. That's what I fear you're going to see on Tuesday night if they play this game. And it's a big problem that the NFL needs to address. It's different than probably any other sport in that regard, where the drop-off of talent at certain positions, quarterback, left tackle, edge rusher, can make a tremendous difference in a game, especially quarterback. So you compare it to Major League Baseball, where the Miami Marlins put together a team of mostly minor leaguers, but they were able to compete. And that's because it's a short season, and over a short season, the drop-off between Major League second baseman and a minor league second baseman is not enormous. But the drop-off between a starting quarterback and a practice squad quarterback is huge. And that's what you're seeing. And NFL needs to recognize that. They have to recognize that how are we putting this product out there for our fans? This isn't a game. Who wants to watch this? This isn't high school football where you can just plug in the wide receiver. We're going to put him at quarterback and we're going to run the ball every play and it's going to be fine. You can't do that in the NFL. And it's showing. So the league is, in my opinion, handling this poorly.
Yeah, I mean, early on we saw they had a lot of issues with the games getting postponed. We saw what happened in New England with the Titans, how they had to basically change the schedule on the fly, and they said, no, we're not doing this anymore. So what they came up with was basically this idea of the close contacts, where, okay, we're contact tracing as every day, and if player X gets COVID and he's in close contact with these three guys that none of them can play for 5 days, he's out for 10, and then we go on. And it seemed to work until we had this Ravens situation. And right now, it's just, that wasn't something that seemed to work fine while the numbers were decent, but with coronavirus spiking pretty much everywhere, you just look at this, you're like, boy, we have a real problem on our hands, especially because after Thanksgiving, with Christmas coming up, you would think those numbers would keep spiking.
Yeah, and that's another, and you got to get the NFL, I guess, a little bit of a break there. It's not their fault, but this was predicted. This was predicted by experts all summer that once the weather gets cold and once the holidays come around, COVID was going to spike. And that's exactly what's happened. It's happened all across the country, from New York to California and everywhere in between. So it makes it harder to keep these guys COVID-free. And sometimes it can be something just completely idiotic, like the situation in Baltimore with the strength coach who decided that he didn't have to follow the rules. But other times it could be something just that seems innocent and mundane. I went to Starbucks to pick up a cup of coffee, that kind of thing. But once you bring a virus like this into a locker room, into a weight room, and into a huddle, it's going to spread. And that's what happened to the Ravens. It's happening with the Steelers. And I'm afraid it's going to happen all across the league, really.
Yeah, and we've seen a lot of things happening here, and the NFL is definitely conscious because this is a move that's not gotten much attention, but Right now, the league has basically ordered every team that's not playing in a game on Monday or Tuesday to work virtually for those 2 days because they know that we're getting a big Thanksgiving spread of coronavirus because people met their families and a lot of people were inside and not wearing masks and eating and spending time together. So the league knows this is a problem, and this is a underutilized factor. They're trying to nip an outbreak in the bud by having virtual work for these 2 days.
Yeah, and look, that's it's a good idea. It's something, but is it sufficient? I don't know. I mean, they said that the incubation period for this virus is 5 days, so sometimes longer. So you went to Thanksgiving dinner on Thursday. You could still have this thing on Wednesday the next week. It's an idea. It's not. It's something, but the NFL's in big trouble unless, of course, they decide that you know what, we don't care. We're going to put out whatever product we put out on the field, and we're just going to truck ahead until we get to the playoffs. And we think that come the playoffs, people are going to watch, no matter who's playing, and that's what it's going to be. But if I were the NFL, I'd be real worried because you could have a situation where, I mean, God forbid, but imagine you have a playoff game where the team has to start the third string quarterback because of something like this. That's a debacle.
Yeah, because it would be an absolute debacle, and we'll get to more of that stuff. But like one thing I've been thinking about with this whole situation with the coronavirus going on right now with the NFL is just sort of the playoffs, as you mentioned, because they kind of negotiate a little bit on the down low again because everybody's paying attention to what was going on at the election and not really paying attention to the sports world. The NFL basically said, "Hey, we have an 18th week built in here if we need it. They're not going to use it if they only have to move one game. It's why they're trying so hard to get Ravens Steelers in week 12 and not have to schedule much more than that. But if a game gets outright canceled and they can't finish the full 256 for everybody, they're going to add an 8th playoff team in each league. That sounds like that's something they don't want to do. Hence, it's sort of like the break glass case emergency scenario.
Yeah. I doubt they want to do that. If they have to, they have to. And, it may work out. It worked out. Baseball, I think it worked out, actually. I think that the baseball players were exciting, but that was different. You had a short season here. I don't think the NFL wants to have an extra playoff week, but if they have to, they have to. It's clear to me that they are going to do anything that they can that's within their power. Obviously, there are some things that are not in their power, and we're going to get to that with governments and all that, but anything that's within their power, they're going to do to get this season completed. That's what they're showing you.
Yeah, they are. And we saw this today with Denver, with the situation with, in case people are not aware of what's going on with the Broncos, one of their quarterbacks, Jeff Driscoll, contracted coronavirus. The other 3 quarterbacks in the room with him one day did not have to wear their mask during a quarterback meeting, so they all got in close contacts. They got sidelined for the game. The NFL denied Denver's request to push the game back a day, see if they can get somebody cleared. They also asked the NFL if they could let one of their assistant coaches who used to play quarterback play. They said no to that, so we had to elevate a guy off of the practice squad. His name is I think it's KJ Hinton, I believe his name is, but he was a college quarterback. He was on Denver's practice squad. A month ago, he was selling insurance. He had not taken any snaps on practice or even thrown a pass until Sunday morning. And we saw what happened there. They attempted 9 passes, completed 1. The kid threw 2 interceptions. Denver had 112 yards of offense. The Saints rolled 31-3. The spread of this game was a 6-point spread. Joe and I both picked this game. He took the Broncos. I took the Saints. This was well before any of this happened. It ballooned to a 17-point spread. And what we saw was just not competitive football. That game was atrocious.
That's what I was alluding to earlier. And that, to me, is unacceptable. You cannot have that happen in a professional sport. It's just unacceptable. How is that a competitive balance? And it works multiple ways. Now, I understand that Denver is not a competitive team and they're not going to make the playoffs. Fine. But New Orleans is a competitive team, and they're in playoff races with a lot of other teams. If you're the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, how do you not look at the league and say that's not fair? You gave them a game against the JV squad. You gave our division rival a win, basically. It destroys the competitive balance of the league. It's not fair, and it's, in my opinion, just the league really screwed up here. They should have pushed this game at least a day, if not 2 days. Try and get a quarterback under center. Chances are New Orleans wins anyway, but at least then I have a competitive football game, and we could say, look, they had a professional quarterback play the game for them. That didn't happen today. And I go back to what baseball did. If you remember, the Miami Marlins had the situation where the whole pitching staff was out. And, they delayed the Marlins season and gave their guys some time to come back because they weren't going to throw anybody out there to go pitch. They tried their best to get some major league caliber arms. And granted, I understand in baseball you have a big advantage that you have a minor league system and there are a lot of guys there who are good enough to pitch in the major leagues. But still, I don't think you could have anything like what happened with Denver happen again today.
Yeah, you can't. It's also an insult to paying customers, and they still had about 20,000 fans in Denver, and those people pay NFL money and probably hiking prices this year because of the pandemic and them trying to get their revenue in. They paid for a product that was nowhere near what they signed up for, which is also a shame for those fans, and a shame for the fans in the Denver TV market got blocked out of the Chiefs Buccaneers game because they got stuck watching that slop.
Yeah, you're right. There's consequences all down the line, from the fans in the game to the fans at home to the people who put in legal bets in Las Vegas and New Jersey to the fantasy football players. It's all in all, those people all got chipped by the NFL. But it's because the NFL doesn't care. All they care about is we need to get to the playoffs to make money. All they care about.
It is all they care about. And we've heard for a long time they've resisted the idea of the home team bubble in terms of putting people in the hotels. And I get that. But given the numbers around the country, you want to play safely. I feel like that's the only way you can really do it at this point from here on out.
Yeah. Well, they have to play it safe because they're in jeopardy of not being able to finish a season. And we're going to get there. I mean, we've been alluding to it, but the governments are not going to put up with this forever. They're going to make them stop. And when that happens, they're in jeopardy. So they have to put an end to it. Keep going back to baseball because that's the only sport that we really saw play a season during this. But if you remember, we had that emergency Rob Manfred press conference or conference call rather to Tony Clark telling him get your guys in order. And after that, it looked like baseball got themselves together. The NFL they got to get their guys together and ASAP. And that's everybody in the room. That's assistant coaches, head coaches, everybody, because they are in trouble of not being able to finish this season.
Yeah, they really are. And before we move on to the government issues, I do want to point out that the league has denied Denver's request because they claim they don't move games for competitive reasons. They only move them for medical ones. And I think the problem with that logic here, especially if you're getting into the playoffs time, what happens if you are, say, the Kansas City Chiefs and, God forbid, Patrick Mahomes contracts coronavirus before the second round of your playoff game and he can't play? You're just going to say, oh, sorry, Kansas City, you're out. You can't defend the Super Bowl title. I feel like that's a really lame excuse to give to the Chiefs fans.
It's a lame excuse. It's a BS excuse for. I know this is a
that's fine.
Family-friendly broadcast, but it's a BS excuse. That's what it is. All this is the schedule. They didn't want to move the game because they didn't want to jigger with the schedule. But the competitive balance and health issues need to coincide with one another because they do coincide with one another. And the NFL may not want to admit it, but there's a big difference between telling me that the team has no quarterback versus the team has no punter. It changes the competitive balance of the game. The league knows that, and they should have kicked the game. And if something like this happens again, I don't know what they do. I guess the precedent's set now. So, like you said, if this happens to the Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs, I guess the Kansas City Chiefs are going home. And maybe that's the motivator. Maybe that's what these guys have to tell each other in the locker room. You got to be careful because if Pat Mahomes gets COVID, we're going to lose, guys. It's that simple. We're going to lose. So let's all be careful. Make sure we don't bring COVID into this locker room.
Yeah, and the NFL also has been hypocritical. It's all about their whole message about football is family. This is we're a community deal, but the NFL is showing you right now they care only about the NFL. They could care less what goes on in the community as long as they get their 256 games in and they make their TV money.
Yeah, that's all the NFL cares about. There's no community here. There's no effort to protect the community. There's no effort to even set an example. I mean, you're telling me that they have closed door meetings. People aren't wearing masks. People aren't wearing masks in strength and conditioning rooms. That's just flat out wrong. There's you know there's wherever you stand on this debate of whether should we be open, should we not be open. Just about everybody agrees that we need to take precaution. We need to wear masks when we're doing things like having closed door meetings or working out in gyms. And I don't know why the NFL has determined that these rules don't apply to the NFL. And they'll deny it. They'll say, oh, there's rogue teams. We tell them that they're not supposed to do that. But what are they going to do about it? Are they going to punish anybody? No. Because they really don't care. All they care about is, did we get the 256 in? What were the ratings? And let's get to the playoffs and get that TV money.
Yeah, indeed. And right now we have, coming up here, we have 5 weeks of the regular season left, and we have a team right now that does not have a home because the San Francisco 49ers play out in Santa Clara. They have been basically on a deal with the local government for the whole season in terms of, okay, we're permitting you to practice here and you can play here, but you have to follow our rules. The county of Santa Clara basically over the weekend announced that they are imposing strict coronavirus measures trying to curb the spread. They include anybody from coming in from 150 or more miles away has to quarantine for 14 days. You can't practice or play professional sports for at least 3 weeks. 49ers is basically out of a home right now. So can you explain a little bit more about what's going on here with San Francisco?
So this is what I was alluding to earlier, and now I guess we could jump into it. So, little civics 101 lesson here, but in America, the way that our system of government is set up is it's extremely local, and oftentimes it goes down to the county. So forget about the state-by-state variations. There can be county-by-county variations. So what may be perfectly okay in Los Angeles is not okay in Santa Clara County because Santa Clara County in California decided that they need to curb the spread, and part of that is they shut down sports, including the 49ers. The 49ers asked for an exemption. They said no. There's not going to be an exemption for you. There's not going to be an exemption for anybody. So figure it out. So what that means essentially is what you said. For the next 3 weeks, the 49ers are not going to be able to practice or play in their home stadium, which is located in Santa Clara County. So what do? I suppose they can move their stadium, and I imagine the NFL will try and do that to try and get them into a different county, hopefully not too far away, that will allow them to play. But this is what I fear with the NFL. So it's no secret that different states and even different local governments are handling the pandemic very differently. So Florida has taken a more lax approach down there with their governor. So I would imagine that the Bucks and the Dolphins are never going to have an issue like this. But California has taken a more strong stance, and that's even stronger by county. So now Santa Clara's acted. L.A. County, I wouldn't be surprised if they may enact some sort of a similar rule, and that'll obviously jam up the Chargers and the Rams. So it's a big problem. And then here, that's why you have fans in some stadiums and not others. And this is what the NFL needs to worry about, because some states are not going to be their friends, and some counties are not going to be their friends. And Santa Clara County right now is not the NFL's friend. They put them in a bind, and they better hope that they don't get that in other places. I heard something also that I believe it was in Pennsylvania that they want them to wear masks on the playing field now as well.
Yes, so, that I've heard that as well. That's something that's accurate. And as of right now, I think the Eagles claim they were exempt from this, but we haven't seen it in action yet because they haven't played a game in Pennsylvania since that ruling came out. But as you point out, it's kind of like similar what happened with the Raptors and with the Blue Jays in baseball, where Toronto, the government of Canada said, no, you can't bring teams in, you can't fly in and out at your leisure here. So I understand. Right now, the clause is they're going to play in Arizona because they and the Cardinals play basically opposite home schedule, so that's not an issue. But you can't have a situation going where all of a sudden you have 4 or 5 teams having to relocate because the local government said no.
and that's what I'm fearing could happen. I could see L.A. County jumping on this bandwagon. We're going to kick you out of here too, and it's the NFL can't have it. You could have Pennsylvania telling you, well, look, you got to wear masks on the playing field. Now, is that the end of the world? Maybe not, but it certainly is not going to be good may hurt the competitive balance. But the NFL is running into an issue where these different local governments throughout the country are going to enforce their regulations how they see fit. And if the NFL is not giving them any reason to be confident in its ability to curb the spread of this thing, the teams aren't going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I mean, the counties are not going to give them the benefit of the doubt, and that's what's going on. That's what happens in Santa Clara, and I fear it's going to happen elsewhere.
Yeah, I could see that being a big problem, especially if we start getting some of these counties like just sort of shutting things down, because the NFL also has a public relations problem at hand, because obviously they're getting tested every day, and they've gotten criticism about, they're hogging tests, and we know that they are not technically doing that because they are paying for their own tests, and those are not be created. The NFL is not paying for them. But at the same time, they're getting the rapid turnaround. It just means that they're using these labs, the same labs that the local governments are using to get the results, and they're basically paying, saying, hey, put us at the front of the line, and it's taking your neighbor longer to get his test results because the NFL needs theirs every 24 hours.
Yeah, and that's a PR problem. That's exactly what's going on. So the NFL is getting their tests done every 24 hours, and we have doctors and nurses who are waiting on results. Some county governments are just not going to put up with this anymore. Not if they also, what really is going to upset them is that they don't see an effort. If the NFL showed them, hey, we're trying to comply, I think it's one thing, but they're not even. To me, it's from an outside looking in. Does it look like they're trying to you?
Nope.
It doesn't look like they're really making much of an effort to me, and I don't think certain local governments are going to tolerate that. They're going to say, well, why are we condoning this? Why are we giving you special exemptions? We got Al's Diner. They're putting in all the COVID protocols that they can, and we're jamming them up. Why are we giving you guys all the leeway you want, and then you're not even going to wear a mask? So I think that's part of what's going on there.
Yeah, and the NFL announced in a memo over the weekend saying, hey, unless you're on the field, wear a mask at all times. We have to see how much that gets followed. But the other thing I think it's concerning here if you're the NFL is the fact that the numbers now are far, far worse than they were when this pandemic first started. We shut everything down. And granted, they're not the only sport playing right now. We have the college football still going on. They become their own mess of a sideshow with 15 games they can cancel or postpone every week. College basketball, the scheduling a nightmare because you have some in bubbles, some not in bubbles, no consistency over what the protocol is. Somebody tests positive for COVID in the program. But the NFL right now, they have 5 weeks left in the regular season. What do you think is the threshold here? You think it's just enough government saying you can't play to shut them down?
Yes, that's what I think is the only way that this ends. If the government tell them you're done, you're not going to. We're sorry, you're not going to keep playing. And I don't think. To be clear, I do not think governments want to do that. I think they want to continue to allow these guys to play because it helps their message of stay home, curb the spread, if you can give somebody something to watch on television. So I don't, and that's been Governor Cuomo in New York. That's been one of his messages all along. If you remember back in baseball, he was saying, yeah, bring the Blue Jays here. He got them into Buffalo. And part of the reason for that was his theory was, hey, if there's sports on TV, people stay home and watch them. But there does come a tipping point where people are going to shut things down. And something else happened right before Thanksgiving that plays into this, and that was the Supreme Court came out with a ruling, and it shot down one of Governor Cuomo's regulations about how many people could be in places of worship, churches, synagogues, that kind of thing. And the reason that that's relevant here is that what the court harped on in its ruling was that the places of worship were being treated differently than some other quote unquote non-essential businesses. And that's exactly what governments are afraid of happening now. So that's why a government like Santa Clara has to shut down. What's the justification? Why are we treating the NFL differently than we're treating other businesses? you run into potential legal issues. And that's why you see these regulations that are coming out now that apply equally across the board to all businesses, no matter if you're within the non-essential category, which the NFL is, then we're going to apply the regulations to you uniformly. There's not going to be exemptions. And that jeopardizes their ability to finish the season.
Yeah, it definitely does. And I think my follow up with this is just sort of the idea of just thinking about like the other thing the rest of the NFL runs into here is like obviously you can tell teams mask up, be smart, do whatever you want, but like if you're a team like say the Jets and you're 0-11 and you're going nowhere, like how motivated am I to follow the protocols because my season's gonna be over in 5 weeks and like I can't see my family because I'm going to play 5 meaningless football games. I mean, apart from the paycheck, there's not much they can do to keep these like underachieving teams on the hook.
There's just the money. That's the only thing you got is the money, and the money's meaningful to professional football players. Career expectancy 2 to 3 years for most guys. So every game, every paycheck counts. So that's what you got. You got the money. You want to get your money, you got to follow the rules. And I think that people will do so in that regard. But I think that what people just let their guard down. It's not easy. And I think we got to stress that. It's not easy to be in your normal workplace. You know, these are people who have been in locker rooms playing football their whole lives since they were little kids. It's not easy to change your normal behaviors in a locker room, in a gym, in a conference room, during the quarterback meeting. And it takes constant reminders. But unfortunately, with something like this, one slip up, just one let your guard down once, and you can really get knocked out by this virus. And that's what seems like it's going on right now with the Ravens.
Yeah, and we'll see if they play on Tuesday. But I think our prediction here is I think we might get a Week 18. I think the clear thing we've learned here is that this NFL is just going to plow forward. The schedule is going to go on as much as they possibly can do it, and until enough governments tell them you can't play ball here, they're going to basically just plow ahead and get through their season. Yeah,
that's what I think is correct. I agree with you. I think that the NFL is going to play as long as governments let them play. If the governments don't let them play, they're probably going to try and find some friendly governments like Florida and Arizona and go to those governors and say, let us bring our business to you.
Yeah, and I think for the smartness of all this, I think the easiest way to get around this problem, and I know this involves a separate issue, you have to pay the players more to basically give up living at home with their families for another month and a half and go to the hotels early, but I think you have to do that. You have to go to them and say, look, we need to finish this. Here's a little more cash up front. You guys can start staying in hotels, going from the facility and back. Until then, the 49ers are going to be one team doing it for sure, and why not just extend to the other 31?
If you could work it out with the union, yeah. And again, that's an easier thing to work out in football than it is in baseball, simply because the paycheck means so much more to a football player than it does a baseball player. Because of the average guy is only going to get 32 of them or 48 of them, no more than that for the most part. So everyone counts. And if you tell them you want that paycheck, you got to go stay in a hotel. I think a lot of players will be amenable to doing that.
Yeah, I think it is. And Phil, I want to thank you for your time. Before I let you go, I want to touch quick on the election stuff that I want to give us a little pat in the back here. I think we did hit the nail on the head pretty much about all the stuff we discussed back in November.
Yeah, it looks like the only you and I were wrong on Florida and North Carolina, but otherwise it looks like we hit the map pretty perfectly. And the numbers, they were what they were. I understand that the president is still disputing the results and filing lawsuits and recounts, but anybody who's following the news, no, it's not working. Bottom line is the numbers speak for themselves. He lost the election. Looks like a big reason why he lost was the use of mail-in voting, which we told the listeners during the podcast that mail-in votes were going to go heavily to the Democrat, and they did. It's really no surprise. Everybody knew that, just because of the different messages and different philosophies about how to handle the pandemic from the two different parties, and their voters followed. So I think we did hit the nail on the head pretty much with the numbers. It's, I guess the president can continue to try his legal options, but I mean, he's basically out of options now. I think the only thing he's got left is over the weekend he lost a case in the federal court in the Third Circuit, which is the court that takes appeals from Pennsylvania. So he can appeal that one to the Supreme Court, see if they take it. But I mean, even if they take the case, last I saw it was about 6,500 votes that were at issue in the case, and he lost that state by 80,000. So I don't know what the Supreme Court's going to do for him. So seems like his legal options are just about over. But we did hit the nail on the head with the numbers.
Yeah, we also did hit the nail on the head with the whole argument with the thoughts about the post-election theories that, hey, the judges, they don't want to hear nonsense out of the evidence, and unless you see this evidence of voter fraud pop up right after the election or on election day, you're not going to find it. And so far, I mean, the record speaks yourself. It's 139 to this point, including 3 recount losses. So that tells you all you need to know.
Yeah, and the fraud thing, just for anybody who's listening to this, and I know it's not a political podcast, but don't believe the fraud thing, because that's not even what these lawsuits are about, and you don't have to take my word for it. Rudy Giuliani admitted it in open court. He told the court this is not a fraud lawsuit, and the reason it's not a fraud lawsuit is there's no evidence of fraud. So what they came up with is constitutional and other sort of technicality challenges. The mail-in voting, you weren't allowed to do it in this method. You'd actually be that method, or you needed to use blue ink, not black ink, stuff like that, because there was no evidence of fraud. They couldn't find it. They weren't able to present it to the court. And the only cases that they did were, one guy heard another guy say that he may have seen another guy do something. That's not going to hold it in a court of law. So don't. You may hear fraud, and that may be the word that they use in the media, but it's not the word that they've been using in the courts.
Yeah, and another thing to point out, as several of the judges, I've been following this closely, have been saying throughout this process, just because you say it's unfair does not mean it actually is unfair. Yeah,
and the other problem that they have is the remedies that they're asking for. So take this Pennsylvania case I was talking about, for instance, the federal lawsuit. The challenge there is actually very simple. In Pennsylvania, some counties allowed people who voted by mail to what's called cure their ballots. So that means if you made some sort of mistake, let's say you didn't sign it in the right spot, the county could call the voter and say, hey, we got your ballot. You filled it out incorrectly. Please come down to the county office between 9 and 5 on Monday to Friday, and we can fix it. And they let people come down and fix it that way. Other counties said, no, we're not going to do that. If you fill it out wrong, that's on you. Follow the directions. And that was under Pennsylvania law. That's the county's right to make that decision. But the Trump campaign sued and said, hey, that violates the Equal Protection Clause of the Constitution. You're not treating all the voters equally. And in order to do that, they found 2 guys in counties that didn't let them cure, who I guess wanted to vote for Trump and filled out the ballot wrong. But in a normal lawsuit, those 2 guys would say, well, court, I want you to make my votes count, our individual vote count. Or even, I want you to make my vote count and anybody else who has a similar situation who filled out their ballot wrong, their votes count. But that's not what these guys did. Instead, they said, because of this, you need to invalidate the 6.5 million votes in the state, just throw them all out and pretend the election never happened. That just doesn't add up. And the judges, I mean, he really railed into Giuliani for that in court. He's like, well, what is this? Why are you asking me to do this? I'm not going to disenfranchise 6.5 million people. If you think there was a problem with your individual vote, then maybe we could fix your vote. But why do we need to take the right to vote away from other people? And there's really no good answer to that, because there's just no. I mean, don't take my word for it. Again, read the court papers. The judge wrote that the court had searched, the case books all the way back to the English Middle Ages, and they couldn't find a single case where somebody attempted to invalidate 6.5 million votes because they thought that their vote wasn't treated fairly. Doesn't exist.
Yeah, it definitely does. And Phil, thanks for all the time. I really appreciate it. And
All right.
coming up next, I'm going to also dive into our weekly Mandalorian recap with Kevin Lillis right after this.